What is up, everybody? This is the Fresh Baked Goods, and thank you for clicking on this video. Update 11 for Hell Let Loose is just around the corner. While there's no official release date set for it, it's safe to assume it's coming out in November, beginning of December. We're going on a little over 3 months since Update 10, so this is about the usual time for it. And you have to assume they want it out before the holidays. And while I did try the PTE and get to try out the Panzer IV and see all the new Halftracks and the new meta at play, I'm not going to show any footage of that. And please take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. There's a lot of ifs with this. I mean, this whole thing could be an if. Everything still has the potential to change by the time U11 is actually released. So with all that said, I am very worried about the future of tanking in this game. I will say right off the bat, the future of Infantry looks great. The adjustment of commander abilities and the introduction of Halftracks as mobile spawn points, I think these are great additions. But as far as tanking goes, in my opinion, it's not looking good. So currently right now, as of U10, there is the heavy tank meta, where fuel is very easy to come by, it's very easy to spawn a heavy tank, and they just dominate everything since mediums cannot pen them from the front. So let's say with U11, the Panzer IV is introduced, which is great. The Germans really did need a balanced medium tank, but let's say it goes the same route as U10, or it's just another copy and paste medium tank, so it'll be equivalent to the regular Sherman as well as the T-34. The mobility on them as of U10 is terrible. They can't counter a thing. They can't get around heavies. They can't counter AT. They can't counter recon vehicles. If that is the case, that fixes nothing with medium tanks. So medium tanks will still be medium tanks. They won't be any better. They will not be any worse. As far as heavy tanks go, I'm assuming their fuel will be increased, hopefully a longer cooldown. But if their fuel is only minorly increased, then you might as well just wait for a heavy tank. You're going to save yourself more time waiting that couple extra minutes for that fuel instead of driving that medium tank for 10 minutes and getting one shot by a heavy. Just wait the extra couple minutes for the heavy tank back at spawn. There's no incentive to drive that medium still. So these are just a few of the overall problems regarding tanks in the Hell Let Loose going from U10 into U11 that are probably not going to be addressed. Tanks remain this thing that is very powerful, but also very fragile at the same time, and some very unbalanced aspects in there as well, like the 76 having a faster reload time than the Tiger. And where I'm going, we'll get to where I'm going with this in a minute here, but I just wanted to reiterate how incapable tanks currently are of doing little things, like hell, turning a corner, not having to bump into a wall, or being in a medium tank and just accepting death when a recon vehicle is coming around behind you because you can't turn fast enough to even get it. But let's talk Halftracks. And on top of this, it's safe to assume Halftracks will be spawned using fuel. And it's safe to assume they will not be cheap. And obviously they will be priority over tanks, because this will be greater for the team overall to have those in play. So between everything, you'll have Halftracks taking up fuel, and you'll have them taking up part of the vehicle limit. It's also safe to assume these Halftracks are absolutely going to get wrecked, so you'll need to keep respawning them. What this gives us is tanks becoming more rare, and not because of you're waiting for a longer cooldown for heavy or medium. It's because there's going to be less fuel in general. So now the priority is always going to go to these Halftracks, which it should, but it's going to leave tankers having less options for tank, and you're going to be waiting longer and longer. And where I'm going with this is that tankers will become completely dependent on infantry keeping Halftracks alive. If they do not, fuel will bleed, and the commander will simply not be able to spawn a tank for the tank crews, and then they will be forced to take the crappy auto spawn medium. And if the enemy has one heavy tank, you're going to roll it up and you're going to get wrecked. It's going to be the same problems U10 gave us with tanking, but on a greater scale, because you absolutely need a heavy to counter a heavy in this game. And this is all just kind of a bummer if this is the way it goes. This is what worries me, because if medium tanks don't get a buff, there's no reason to drive them. They can't beat a heavy, and they certainly can't counter a recon. And then speaking of recons, this will now be, I've preached it on before, recon tanks are becoming a new meta. They're going to be even more powerful in U11. If there are no changes to the recon, and it stays the same, this guy's going to be able to take out the heavies and Halftracks. You're going to be able to burn a team's fuel, no problem, with an experienced crew in a recon. It's going to be so freaking easy. And it just seems like this kind of thought process is just being missed here with this update. Because I love playing tanks this game. I don't want to be forced into playing a recon vehicle because it's more effective against tanks and just for the fuel resources overall. So that's what worries me about Update 11. Sure, we're going to have rare heavy tanks in general, which is what the devs wanted from the beginning. But I feel like we're also going to have less tanks overall with the addition of Halftracks, and if they do cost a good amount of fuel. And with the vehicle limit only being 8 vehicles, I believe it is, between the Halftracks, the auto-spawn transport trucks, the auto-spawn light vehicles, you're going to be forced into a game where you you can't have tanks. There isn't an option to have tanks because of the combination of that vehicle limit and not having fuel, because you have to constantly spam half tracks. And then when you do have the ability to get a tank, you're gonna have 6 crews fighting over it. And you have to hope some solo tanker doesn't run up and steal it from you. And you're gonna sit there and you're gonna look at these resources and you're gonna see thousands of manpower, thousands of munition, and a couple hundred fuel tops. And I don't know what the fix to this is. It makes sense having half tracks cost fuel. It helps infantry, but it's at the expense of the tankers. I feel like it'd be more fair if half tracks maybe cost manpower, but I might be a little biased on that. But who knows? This might all change by the time U11 hits. But it seems like the most effective thing to do is going to be getting a recon vehicle, creep up behind tanks that can't turn around time, cruise up, blow up a half track from a distance, and you're good. You just destroyed an enemy team's fuel economy, and they just have no way to bounce back from it. And I hate that because I love playing tanks in this game. I really, really don't want to be forced in a recon vehicle every time. And it seems like there's an easy fix here, you know? Give the medium tanks their turning ability back. Let them counter these recon vehicles. Give a medium a fighting chance against a heavy. Whether that be increased mobility for a flank, or maybe putting a weak spot on the front, or just maybe even it takes 3 to 4 shots to kill a heavy from the front. There's no reason for a medium tank to have less mobility than the heavy. That just doesn't make sense. That's not good gameplay. And people have been saying this since U10, and if it doesn't change by U11, it's going to get worse for the overall tanking game. And we're just going to end up at the point where we're kind of at U9, where a team's not going to have any fuel because they're forced to pump out half tracks. And if the enemy team does have a couple good tank crews, they're going to run you over. So right now, even with all its problems, Hell Let Loose tanking is still extremely fun. And the direction it's heading, from what I can tell, is that it's just going to be hard to do now. And I mean that just like it sounds. It's going to be hard to get in a tank come update 11. There's going to be very few of them. The more armor crews you have, the harder it's going to be. The recon meta is going to take over, and it just doesn't seem like any of this is being addressed. So who knows? This could all change by the time update 11 hits. For now, this is all assumptions and speculation, but it sucks. I love tanking in this game. You know, obviously, if you're a fan of this channel, I love playing Hell Let Loose. I love tanking in it, and it's kind of a bummer to see this as the direction it might be going. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping by the next time that changelog hits, there's some new things on there regarding the tank overhaul, because it seems like it's kind of dropped off since U10. I feel like we've been abandoned out here. But I highly recommend, if you haven't, go play the PT, jump in the tank, provide some feedback. Because right now I feel like I'm watching my favorite game go in a direction I'm not really liking, which is not great. But we'll see. Like I said, this could all change. It could all change. Let's keep playing. Let's keep plugging away. Keep jumping those PTEs. Thank you for watching. Thank you for everything you do. I'll see you dudes on the front line.